Hey everyone, before we jump in, make sure to subscribe for real-life stories that reveal what really goes on behind closed doors. You don't want to miss these. My name is Ryan, and I've always believed that honesty and patience are the pillars of a strong relationship. But sometimes life tests those pillars in ways you never expect. It all began last week. My girlfriend, Chloe, had been distant for a while. Subtle signs, short replies to texts, delayed responses, and the occasional cold shoulder had started to pile up. I noticed, but I chose to stay calm. I've always believed that relationships thrive on understanding, not overreactions. Then came the moment I had been dreading. Chloe, frustrated over a small disagreement, threatened to block me. Not out of anger at the situation itself, but as a way to assert control. "Maybe you shouldn't even have my number if you can't understand me," she said, her voice sharp, tinged with the familiar mix of frustration and mischief that had drawn me to her in the first place. My heart raced for a moment, but I didn't react impulsively. I didn't yell, I didn't beg. Instead, I sat quietly, letting her words settle. I realized immediately that this was more than just a threat. It was a test, a challenge, and a moment where I needed to decide how to respond without losing my composure. Inside, I started analyzing everything, the patterns of behavior, the timing, the little inconsistencies I had noticed over the past few weeks. And then it hit me, the one thing Chloe could never block, the one thing she could never take away from me. It wasn't my presence, my words, or my actions. It was my awareness, my understanding of her patterns, and the quiet strength I carried within myself. That was something she could never delete, mute, or hide from. So I made a choice. I would not react the way she expected. I would not beg or argue. I would simply be present in the way only I could, calm, patient, and fully aware of every subtle move she made. And in that quiet strength, I knew the balance had already begun to shift. Over the next few days, Chloe continued to test boundaries. She sent occasional messages, half-hearted attempts at conversation, and playful remarks that seemed designed to provoke a reaction. But I stayed calm, measured, and deliberate in my responses, or rather my lack of reaction. I didn't give her the emotional surge she was seeking. Instead, I mirrored neutrality, patience, and quiet confidence. Each message she sent was a small test, a flicker of control she believed she could wield. I could see it in the timing, the wording, the subtle expectation behind each text. And yet, she overlooked one critical thing, my awareness. I knew her patterns, her tendencies, the little cracks behind her confident facade. I knew that trying to provoke me would only reveal more about her own insecurities. That evening she tried to escalate. A playful threat of blocking me, a half-joking remark meant to unsettle me, even a few social posts hinting at drama. But I didn't engage. I didn't react. I let her actions hang in the air like a mirror reflecting her own attempts at control. And slowly the frustration began to show. The confidence she wore like armor started to falter, replaced by uncertainty. I realized that contrast framing was now fully at play. Chloe's attempts at dominance were loud and visible, but my quiet, composed stance highlighted her actions in sharp relief. Every provocative text, every teasing comment, every subtle manipulation now only served to expose her, rather than unsettle me. The balance had shifted. What she thought was her tool, threats, drama, attention, was now powerless against my calm, measured approach. By the end of the week, her behavior subtly changed. The playful threats dwindled, the teasing messages became tentative, and the attempts at provocation slowed. Chloe was beginning to recognize, in small doses, that the one thing she could never block or override was my awareness, my self-control, and the quiet authority I held over my own reactions. By the following evening, the tension had reached a quiet peak. Chloe tried one last subtle push, messages filled with teasing, hints of guilt, and playful accusations designed to provoke me. But I didn't bite. I stayed calm, my words measured, my tone neutral. My presence, or rather, the strength of my composure, spoke louder than any reaction she might have expected. For the first time, I noticed a change in her demeanor. The playful confidence she had carried so easily now wavered. Her messages became hesitant, her words chosen carefully, as if she were testing the waters to see how much control she really had. The mask of dominance she had worn for days was slipping, revealing a quiet awareness that she had underestimated me all along. Instead of confrontation, I allowed silence to do the work. Each unread message, each delayed reply, Each moment of calm reflection created a mirror for Chloe. She began to see the consequences of her actions, the ways in which trying to block or manipulate someone through fear or drama only exposed her own vulnerabilities. When we finally spoke in person, it was different. Chloe apologized, not just for the threats or teasing, but for the subtle dismissals that had built up over time. She admitted, almost quietly, that she hadn't realized how her actions were affecting me, how my patience and composure had shifted the balance of power. I didn't lecture her. I didn't make her feel small. I simply listened, acknowledged, and maintained the calm that had guided me through the entire situation. By the end of that conversation, the dynamic had changed permanently. Chloe's attempts to provoke or control no longer held power. She understood, in a profound yet understated way, that respect, awareness, and quiet confidence are forces that cannot be blocked or overridden. The lesson was subtle but unmistakable. Actions have consequences, and the man who remains steady in the face of manipulation ultimately holds the real authority. Looking back, I realized the entire episode wasn't about proving a point or winning an argument. It was about reclaiming dignity, establishing boundaries, and showing that true power lies in calm awareness and measured response. Chloe had overlooked the one thing only I could give her. And in that realization, both of us learned the value of respect, patience, and the quiet strength that guides every meaningful relationship.